Well, Professor Sandel, it's an honor for the Inter-American Institute for Research and Teaching in Human Rights to welcome you and acknowledge your admiration to your great career. I would also like to thank our audience for joining us. A special thanks to our guest of honor to be here. Our honoris causa doctors in human rights, part of this institute, academic, students, researchers, magistrates, and judges, and all lawyers from Mexico, US, Argentina, Canada that join us tonight. Thank you for being here and welcome all. We are an international organization dedicated to promotion, education, and defense of human rights in Mexico and other member of countries of the Organization of American States. For our organization, it's very valuable to be able to give you the Dignity Award, which is a public recognition for the successful career as an academic. Thank you very much. A moment, please. Okay. Please a moment. Dignity Award, proudly presented to Professor Michael Sandel. The Institute is very glad today, Professor, to join us. So I want to begin. Thank you all. And thank you very much for accepting this recognition. We are very honored, Professor Sandel. Then, what is justice? One of the most controversial topics that you have discussed with great intelligence and clarity in your classroom and online course. Now, your latest book, The Theory of Merit, What's Become of Common Good, which we will discuss tonight. My colleague, Crystal Sable, is going to open up the floor because I know there are some questions. Krista, please, welcome.
Thank you so much, Sergio. And as you just mentioned, we are honored today to be with Professor Michael Sandel, discussing his new book, The Theory of Merit, What Becomes of the Common Good. So if you have any questions that you would like to ask Professor Sandel, you may type them into the comments below at any time during the event. Just please make sure your questions are in English. So let's get started. Professor Sandel, it is a great pleasure to have us with us tonight. So thank you so much for being here. In this book, you are challenging the idea that we are a meritocracy, and the idea that you need to try hard and you will do well. So could you please talk more about this?
Yes. First, I would like to thank the Institute for this award. It means a great deal coming from an institute and a group of lawyers and scholars, jurists and judges who devote your lives to the causes of justice and human rights. I admire what you do, and it could never be more important than it is today. So I want to say how honored I am to receive this award and to join you this evening for this discussion. To reply to Krista's question, the new book is called The Tyranny of Merit. And the subtitle is, What's Become of the Common Good? There's a paradox, I recognize, a paradox in speaking of the tyranny of merit. Because we commonly think of merit as a good thing, as an ideal, as desirable. We say, for example, that the right thing to do is to hire people for jobs, for social roles, on the basis of merit, not on the basis of nepotism or favors or bribery or privilege. So merit we ordinarily think of as a good thing, as a principle of fairness. And merit has an important place in allocating social roles. If I need surgery performed, I want a well-qualified surgeon to perform it. So, merit in that sense is a good thing. Why then do I say in the new book that merit can become a kind of tyranny? The reason is this. In recent decades, the divide between winners and losers has been deepening, poisoning our politics, driving us apart. This is partly because of the widening inequalities of income and wealth that neoliberal globalization has brought about. But it's not only that. What makes the divide between winners and losers a source of anger and resentment and frustration has also to do with changing attitudes towards success that have come with it. Those who have landed on top have come to believe that their success is their own doing, the measure of their merit, and that those who struggle, those left behind, have no one to blame but themselves. Now, this way of thinking about success is connected to the meritocratic ideal. The meritocratic ideal says, if everyone starts out with an equal chance, then the winners deserve their winnings. There are two problems with this idea of merit or meritocracy. The first is, as we all know, chances are not truly equal. People start out from a very young age at very different starting points depending on their family background, the ability of their families to provide them educational opportunities and cultural opportunities that give them an advantage in meritocratic competition. So that's one problem. But there's a second problem. Do a thought experiment. Imagine that one day we could truly bring everyone to the same starting point. Let's suppose we could achieve a society with truly fair equality of opportunity. Then would we say that meritocracy is just? Then would we say that the winners deserve their success? Then would we say that our success is our own doing and that falling behind is the doing of those who struggle? I say no, not necessarily. Even if everyone began the race at the same point, there would still be something wrong with thinking of society as a competition that leads to winners and losers. So what I argue in the book, Krista, is that meritocracy, despite its powerful appeal, meritocracy has a dark side. It creates hubris among the winners and demoralization, even humiliation, among those who lose out. And I think what we're seeing in democracies around the world today is that the anger and resentment of societies that have a harsh divide between winners and losers, these angers and resentments have led many people to embrace authoritarian, right-wing, populist leaders who appeal to the grievances, the resentments of those who've been left behind. I think that's what we saw in the US with Trump. That's what Britain saw with the vote for Brexit. That's what many democracies are seeing with the growing appeal of authoritarian figures who appeal to the anger and resentment of those left behind. I'm sorry that was a long answer, Krista, but that's...
No, that's great. Thank you for all your answers. Let me just come back to something you mentioned. So when you talk about merit, in a meritocratic society where you just said the winners believe they have earned their success through their own talent and hard work, so how true is that our own success is our own doing?
I think it's I think it's not completely true, and I question it in the book, believing that my success is my own doing depends on forgetting a lot. It depends on forgetting the luck and good fortune that helped me on my way. It depends on forgetting indebtedness and gratitude. My indebtedness to those who made my success possible. Parents, teachers, neighborhoods, communities, extended families, countries, the times in which we live. This is why I call that self-satisfied attitude of the successful a kind of meritocratic hubris, Krista.
You begin the book also talking about the pandemic, and you said that the US has not just been politically unprepared, but also morally unprepared. Could you please explain what you mean by that and how this relates to the concept of meritocracy? Why are we, everyone, so morally unprepared?
When I suggest in the book, and the pandemic came just as I was finishing the book. So in the prologue, I say that we were morally unprepared, not only in terms of medical equipment and protective equipment, we were also morally unprepared for the pandemic, because the pandemic arrived at a time of almost unprecedented inequality. In the early weeks of the pandemic, we heard a familiar phrase, so familiar it became a slogan. We are all in this together. We heard this from politicians, from celebrities, from advertisers. We are all in this together. And in a certain sense, right? We're all vulnerable. But something about that slogan was not so true. Because as we've seen, as the pandemic has unfolded, it has highlighted the inequalities that were present before the pandemic arrived. To confront with a global pandemic, it's necessary to have strong bonds of solidarity in order to cooperate on the sometimes difficult measures needed to prevent the virus from spreading, especially before we have a vaccine. But our societies lack the solidarity fellow feeling. The sense of mutual responsibility among citizens for one another. We lack the solidarity that contending with a global public health crisis requires. So it's not really true that we were all in this together, and we've seen that the risks have fallen very heavily on those who have no choice but to work and expose themselves to risk. And that's not happening on those of us who have the luxury of working from home. That's what I meant, Chris, by suggesting that we were more prepared to contend with the public health crisis that required unprecedented solidarity at a time when the social bonds had been unraveling for some time.
Thank you so much for this. Let me see, because we're having some issues with the audio. So just...
Please, Krista, go on.
Can you hear me well?
I can hear you.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, there's some okay. Okay, what I would like to ask you is, not that humility is an antidote to meritocratic hubris, but how do you teach or educate for humility?
If you could just ask the last part of it again, an antidote to
Meritocratic hubris.
Yes.
But how do you teach or educate for humility?
Oh, I see. Yes, you're right. That I will be the antidote to meritocratic hubris as humility. But you rightly raised the question. How do we teach humility? Humility today is a short supply, especially among those who are well off. And those who have been victims of the version of neoliberalization that has for decades. Humility is not the first quality you would think of associated with the winners, with the affluent, with the powerful, especially these days. So how to bring about in societies a greater sense of humility to combat the tendency of successful belief that success is doing. I think in two ways. We need to change terms of public discourse. In recent decades, mainstream politicians and political parties, including those on the center left, as well as those center right, have responded to the wide inequality, not ideally with it directly, in reconstructing the economy to combat it, but indirectly, by offering the promise of individual affordability through higher education. And again, including those on the center left, would tell working people, if you're troubled by inequality, if you're facing wage stagnation and have been decades, the solution for you is to go to university. With your university diploma, then you'll be able to do better. So these political like various political parties said if you want to compete and win the global economy, go to college, go to university. What you learn will depend on what you learn. You can make it if you try. Now in some ways, this was my rhetoric, encouraging people to go to university is a good thing. But most people don't have any
is going to be great. Not in Mexico, not in the United States, not in Britain, not in the democracies of Europe. Most people have a 4-year university degree. So I think it's a mistake to assume that the only primary response wage stagnation into inequality is to tell people how you didn't get a good enough education. Instead, what should we be doing instead? We should shift from this meritocratic rhetoric to
Sorry to interrupt. The audio is not really coming through. So is there any way you can, like, everybody can turn off their camera to see if we can? Because we're having, like, I'm getting a lot of messages that people are having trouble listening and understanding. So I'm not sure. Okay.
If this is better.
Yeah, that is way better. I'm sorry about that. Thank you.
It's better. Thank you very much.
Sorry for that, but yeah, everybody was having some trouble, and we really want to listen to everything you have to say. So yeah, that's way better. Sorry to interrupt.
So, tell me, should I repeat the last thing, or could people hear?
Yes, if you could just go back a little bit so people can hear the whole thing, that would be great.
Okay. So Krista's question was, what is to meritocratic hubris? If humility is what we need, how can we teach or encourage humility? That was Krista's question.
Yes.
And I was suggesting we need to do two things. One has to do with changing the terms of public. In recent decades, politicians across the political spectrum, but including those on the center left, dealt with inequality by telling those who struggled, go get a university degree, then maybe you will be able to rise and flourish. They told people who were struggling with stagnant wages, what you earn will depend on what you learn. You can make it if you try. Now, this promise, I call it the rhetoric of rising. This promise is inspiring in some ways, but it has a problem. First, most people don't have a university degree, not in Mexico, not in the United States, not in Britain, not in the democracies of Europe. So simply dealing with inequality by telling people the solution is for you to get a university degree excludes most people. And it also conveys a kind of insult. The insult is, if you didn't get a university degree, and if you're struggling in the new economy, your failure is your fault. What these elites missed was that implicit insult, that tendency of this rhetoric of rising, this meritocratic rhetoric, to make those who struggled, those left behind, feel that elites were looking down on them, that elites were looking down on them for failing to get the university degree that the new economy requires. So I think we should, and meanwhile, those elites felt quite proud themselves because they had equipped themselves with the credentials, the university credentials and professional degrees that the new economy they had designed requires, and prizes, and privileges, and valorizes. So I'm suggesting a shift in the terms of public discourse, that we should focus less on arming people for meritocratic competition and focus more on renewing the dignity of work. Focus more on creating an economy that enables people to flourish whether or not they have prestigious university degrees and credentials. That would be a different kind of politics. It would speak more directly to the lived experience of a great many people who contribute in important ways to the economy and to the common good, even though they may not have attended university. It's not only a problem of wages and pay, though that's an important part of it. The dignity of work means recognizing that work isn't only about making a living. Work is also about contributing to the common good and winning social recognition, honor, esteem for the contributions one makes. And sometimes the contribution is through work and is recognized by the labor market. Other times the contribution is through unpaid forms of work and contribution in families, for example, or in building communities. So I think we need a broader notion of what counts as contributing to the common good. And this shift is one way of providing a kind of antidote, Krista, to the meritocratic hubris of those who created an economy that rewards professional degrees and credentials, and then enables those who attain them to believe that their success is their own doing. Not really. It's that we've designed the economy that way, and it doesn't have to be. It could be otherwise, and it could be an economy that accords respect and honor and recognition to everyone who contributes, not only to those who manage to climb the meritocratic ladder of success. Does that make sense to you, Krista, now that we can hear one another? What do you think of that?
Let's talk about a proposal for reforming college admission and to make the process more just, which you call it a lottery of the qualified. I find that really interesting, and people will have to buy your book to find out more. But can you tell us a little bit more about that? What will the admission lottery try to achieve, and why this lottery of the qualified will combat the tyranny of merit?
Well, this is a controversial proposal. Not everyone, especially at my university, will agree with it. But it tries to address the following problem. We've spoken about meritocratic hubris. We've spoken about the tendency of the successful to believe that their success is their own doing. And we've been talking mainly about the economy as a whole. But I also see this in university life. I notice that my students who work extremely hard to compete for admission to my university, by the time they arrive, they believe that their success in winning admission is entirely due to their own effort. They easily forget the role of luck and good fortune and their indebtedness to those who helped them. And this is because it's understandable, because they are under such pressure, often from the time they're young, to achieve, under great stress, to prepare for college entrance exams, to get good grades, to assemble impressive credentials. They are under such intense pressure that by the time they arrive, they have to believe it was all their own effort. And very often, they continue to feel they have to compete to gather credentials. And this prevents them from using their time in university to explore, to reflect, to figure out what they care about, what's worth caring about, and why. So my proposal, Krista, is this. Many more students apply to these universities, these top universities, than there are places. Over 50,000 students applied this year to my university. And many of them are perfectly well qualified to do the work, to do it well, to flourish, and to succeed in our classrooms. So my proposal is this. Winnow out those who are not well qualified, and among the rest, maybe it's 20,000, maybe 25,000, admit students by lottery. I have a hunch, I could be wrong, but I think the discussions in my classroom would be just as lively and interesting and informed as they are now. But I also think admission by lottery would send a powerful message to students and also to their parents about the role of luck in admission. It wouldn't introduce luck where there is no luck now. It would simply highlight the elements of luck and good fortune. And that's important for those admitted to understand. It can be a kind of antidote, as Krista was saying, to hubris. But I think it's also important for those who don't win admission to understand the role of luck in allocating these opportunities. And maybe it would also contribute to reducing the excessive weight that we place and valorization that we place on being admitted to this or that university. Do you think that's a scandalous proposal, Krista?
I think it's a great proposal. Let me just go back to something you were talking before. The more we think that we are self-made and self-sufficient, the harder it is to learn humility and gratitude. And as you were mentioned, without this, it's hard to care for the common good. So what can be done, and how does meritocracy corrupt the common good?
Meritocracy corrupts the common good by dividing us into a society of winners and losers, and by reinforcing the notion that the winners have earned their place and therefore deserve all the rewards that markets heap upon the successful, and also reinforcing the notion that for those who are not affluent or successful in the market or in the university admissions, meritocracy reinforces the notion that they have fallen short due to their own failings. And thinking about a society in this way, assuming that those on top have earned and therefore deserve their rewards, and assuming that the less affluent have simply failed to better themselves or to contribute, this is corrosive of the common good. Think about it from the standpoint of the successful. If I really believe that my success is my own doing, then it's hard to picture myself in other people's shoes. Whereas if I recognize the role of luck in life, then this can prompt a certain humility. It can prompt the thought, when I look upon those less fortunate than me, it can prompt the thought, there, but for the accident of birth, or the grace of God, or the mystery of fate, go I. So, recognizing the role of luck in life, remembering my sense of indebtedness, can prompt attitudes of humility and gratitude that can point to a politics of the common good, that can encourage us to take up a sense of responsibility for the entire society. And this is my worry, that after 4 decades of widening inequalities and 4 decades of these changing attitudes toward success, the divide between winners and losers has deepened to the point where a great many people are angry and resentful at being looked down upon by elites. Understandably resentful. And these are many of those who feel this resentment are the ones who vote for political figures like Donald Trump. And many of those who feel this anger and resentment at the extreme engage in activity like those who invaded the US Capitol not too long ago when they thought the election had been stolen. So this is how meritocratic hubris, the tendency of elites to look down on the rest of society, is corrosive of the common good and creates the kind of resentment that opens the way to authoritarian populist figures who will promise to stand up for the disempowered against the elites whom they resent.
Thank you so much, Professor Sandel. I'm just looking at the time here, and we just have some time left, but we would like to get some questions from our audience. So I was looking, and they have, let's see, just want to make time for them. Okay, here's one. It says, I completely agree with Professor Sandel's views regarding the dark side of meritocracy. Some things should be earned. Some basic dignity and rights should be granted to everyone. What does he think about those that argue that the rise of white supremacy has been fostered by that with meritocracy as a way to find sense of pride, given that they haven't been able to find it through their jobs or a university degree?
Thank you for the question. I think there is a lot of truth in that suggestion. I think that many of those who embrace white supremacy feel that they've been excluded, that the work they do, if they indeed they have work, is not a source of dignity and honor and respect in the society. And it's a way of trying to assert a kind of pride, though it's a false pride, trying to assert the kind of pride and honor that is otherwise lacking in their lives. So I think there is a lot in that suggestion.
Okay. Here's another one. I understand that anyone can contribute to society. It is not necessary to have any degree. Do you assume that rewards and economic or other kind of benefits are owned because of contribution of the individual to society? What then defines what is a contribution, and what happens to those that cannot contribute? Do they have less rights to social benefits?
Well, here I think this is an important question. I think that we need to distinguish between respect and recognition. Respect is what we owe human beings as such. Respect is what we owe persons as persons, regardless of who they are, or whether or not they work, or whether or not they make any contribution to the society. This is the concept of recognition is different from respect in that recognition presupposes a form of community and belonging in a scheme of cooperation that we find within communities and within countries. Recognition is typically a form of esteem that flows from acknowledging the contributions that others make to the common good of a particular community or society or country. This is how it differs from respect, which is independent of contribution. So I think we need to strengthen both. As a matter of respect for our shared humanity, we have to do what we can to see that no one is without enough food to eat or without basic medical care or without fundamental prerequisites of respect. And this is what fundamental human rights are all about. But recognition goes beyond even human rights to say that when we share a society, when we share a common life with certain shared traditions and history, then we also have to include everyone in that shared way of life. And the way we do that is to provide a way to enable everyone to contribute and to be recognized and appreciated when they do contribute to the common good. Now, that may or may not be a contribution that is recognized by the labor market. There may be other forms of contributions to family, to community. So it's not merely an economic notion, but it does have to do with the idea that we share a common life and that there are forms of recognition that flow from contributing, the mutual contributions we make to the well-being of the whole.
Thank you. I know you have to go soon, so I just want to leave you with a quote from your book, if I may read it. Such humility is the beginning of the way back from the harsh ethic of success that drives us apart. It points beyond the tyranny of merit toward a less rancorous, more generous public life. And I want to thank you again so much, Professor Sandel. Thank you so much for writing this book. Thank you, Professor Arellano. Thanks to the audience for tuning in today. It's been an honor to host you tonight. And thank you so much for joining us. Sergio, I'm not sure if you want to say something.
Yes, of course. Again, Professor, thank you very much to join us this afternoon. We really, really, really admire and respect your job in Mexico. Thank you very much.
Well, I want to thank both of you, and I want to thank everyone who's joined us for this session. The honor, the dignitate honor means a great deal to me, especially coming from an organization devoted to human rights and justice. And this discussion has been, for me itself, an honor. And so I'm so grateful to you for the honor and also for the privilege of being with you for this discussion about the tyranny of merit. Thank you.
We'd like to see you again, Professor Sandel.
I hope next time in Mexico.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Ya terminó, pueden abandonar la sesión. Thank you.
Si no sabía en inglés, ya se acabó.